Hello, 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 everybody. I know you're saying, why is she back on a Tuesday when it's normally on a Monday? I know. You know what it is? We have a special presentation today. This is a gentleman that I really wanted you to hear. But everybody's time is not always the same and that kind of thing. And our schedules were kind of off. But I said, it's so important to know about the things that he does that I want to share that with you. So I wanted to make sure we have this time today. So before we get started, let me go on. I always like to welcome everyone and to go over our sponsors. So welcome to each and every one of you. I'm so happy that you made it. Always glad to see any of you, all of you. It just touches my heart. I'd like to also welcome our replay viewers. Replay viewers, thank you to the show. You really mean a lot, each and every one of you. Every time you go to YouTube and you like and subscribe to the show or you make a comment, all of those things matter. So don't ever think they don't, because they do. For today's show, we have the sponsors. Our first sponsor is Evelyn Pachenko with Nevada Women in Trade. It's NevadaWIT.org. They're having their very first, their Nevada Women in Trade or Women in Trade Alliance. They're having a summit this weekend. It's going to be on Friday and Saturday, and it'll be at the Mirage Hotel in Las Vegas. And thank you, Evelyn Pachenko and Nevada Women in Trade, for sponsoring today's show. We also have First Friday's Travel. If you are traveling and you need travel insurance, you want to go to First Friday's Travel to get that. But you can also get your airline tickets, your cruises, all of those things are available too. But travel insurance is really, really important nowadays. So, ladies and gentlemen, take a look at First Friday's Travel. We also have coming on October 2nd, the Inland Empire Book Fair. It's going to be at Crossword Church in Moreno Valley. You're welcome to come to this. It's a free event to the public. Anybody is welcome to come. If you're an author, though, and you're interested in having an author's table, you can go to, I don't think the site is up there. Well, I'll just have you send an email to Mary at First Book Academy. Just send the email there, and then we can take care of you. Then our very last sponsor for today is First Book Academy. If you have ever wanted to write a book, ladies and gentlemen, and you haven't written it for whatever the reason, doesn't matter what the reason is, but you would like to do that, then you want to come to First Book Academy. You go to firstbookacademy.com, put your name and your information in there, and someone from our team will contact you and help you write that very first book. All right, ladies and gentlemen, now I'm going to introduce to you this gentleman. I've known him for many, many years. In fact, some of you may have known when I did First Fridays years ago. Well, this is one of the stock supporters of First Fridays. He was there, I think, not long after First Friday started and continued to support it. But he is now a guest on the show today. And let me just read you some things about Jerry L. Green. Jerry L. Green was born in Memphis, Tennessee, and he's the 8th of 9 children. The Green family moved to Michigan when Jerry was 2 years old, and after losing his father at the age of 5, Jerry saw and learned through the works of his mother, Rosie L. Green, how an advocate could change a child's life. While in kindergarten, Jerry sometimes appeared too immature to sit down and follow instructions, which caused school administrators to want to hold him back. Taking a stand, Mrs. Green said, "Push him to the first grade. Let's see what happens." Jerry believes that in today's time, he would have been labeled ADD or ADHD. Mrs. Green activism and support were pivotal. Educational advocacy has become Jerry's calling, passion, purpose, and family legacy. Jerry was a Willow Run High School two-sport athlete. In addition to that, after he graduated from high school, he joined the Air Force. Before he graduated from high school, he joined the Air Force. And he served 12 years. And I'll tell him, thank you for your service to our country, Jerry. And then after that, he became a publisher. His circulation was for Southern California area for the Southern California Black Business Expo Directory, which helped identify him as a resource in the Black community. In 2017, Jerry started receiving calls from parents about the treatment of Black students located throughout several school districts in Southern California. Jerry responded by starting the Black Student Advocate Incorporated, a media company that advocates for Black employees and Black families. Jerry has found that giving a voice to an individual story is the best remedy and yields the highest results for solutions. As of February 2021, the Black Student Advocate has accommodated over 2,450 client consultations. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce you to Jerry L. Green. Are you there, Jerry?
Yes, I am.
Welcome, welcome. How are you?
Great. Thank you for having me.
Oh, guys, I'm glad you could make it. I'm definitely glad to have you. I know too, even though I know some about your story, the audience may not know about you. Why don't you introduce yourself to our audience?
Well, again, grew up at the high school in Michigan, joined the Air Force, served in Philippines for a year, North Carolina for a year, and then 2 years in Area 51 with the F-117A stealth fighter from 88 to 90. Got out to military, then moved to Southern California because my brother was what they call the Hollywood Marine. He was stationed at El Toro in Orange County. So I was saying, hey, move out to Southern California. So I did that
Mm-hmm.
and lived in Southern California 29 years.
Oh,
10 years in Orange County, then 19 years in the Inland Empire.
all right. So definitely this I'd say is home. Yes, definitely home. Well, let me ask you this before I know. When I, like I said, when I first met you, it was during First Fridays, I think, when First Fridays
Correct.
was in the Empire, and then not long after that, you started the Black Page. Was it Black Pages, the directory?
It was called the Black Brand, and I actually got the name from a sister that I met at First Fridays. And
Didn't know
I
that.
can't think of her name, but she does a lot of traveling. Um,
Hmm.
and the first name I came with was the Black Resource and Networking Directory, and that was the Black Brand.
Okay, got it, got it. I
You know,
think during there was a lot going on in the IE at that time, wasn't it?
oh yeah, oh yeah. The thing is that the Inland Empire was then it was so many opportunities, just like it is today,
Right,
and it was just we were trying to connect who's who and to individuals that was doing different things, and that's what it was all about.
right. I definitely agree with that. And I think it's still, like you said, even now, we're still making connections and still working. I don't think anyone has stopped, just in different areas or different venues. I
Correct.
think that's what it is. Well, why don't you tell? I know you're the founder of the Black Student Advocate. Due to, like you said, the calls that were coming to you really were probably troublesome, because here it is, different school districts, but you're getting calls that sound pretty similar. Is that correct?
Correct. And so the phone started ringing, and one of the first situations that happened was in Reno Valley USD at Edgemont when the young black student, the fourth grader, was referred to as a slave by his teacher.
Hmm.
And I was traveling and got in town, and the next morning woke up and I had like 6 to 7 inboxes. Jerry, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? Because individuals had sent me the clip that because it made Channel 11 News in L.A. And Jerry, what are we gonna do? So I reached out to the Moreno Valley superintendent, Dr. Kinsayor, and also Dr. White, which was the Riverside County Office of Education superintendent at the time.
Okay.
So then that was one of the first cases we got involved in at a high level where the whole community knew about it. Many things we do, we helping students, it never make the paper or no one knows about it. We just serving the community, helping students.
But that one did make the paper.
Correct.
So what was
Yeah.
the end result from that?
The end result from that was that the principal, the contract assistant principal, which was a black male, and also the school, the teacher, all got removed from that site.
Got it.
Because when the student left the classroom, the contract black administrator and the principal didn't think it was a big issue that he was referred to as a slave. So we went to the board meeting and spoke, and that was one of the. I talked to the parents. One of the demands, pretty much, was is to have them three removed, because again, it shows bad leadership, and the
Right.
district board did go with that. So
Okay. We have a comment. It says Sheila. Hi, Sheila. Sheila is a definite supporter, and she said hello to both of us. It's always nice to see anybody that leaves a comment. When they come in, you know I'm going to say your name, so just know that. And the reason I even asked is because sometimes I don't think people realize that there's an advocate there. That they I don't know if a lot of people, you know what I mean, they know that you're available, and that how do they reach out to you? How do they get in touch with you? And then if there's a cost involved with it.
Well, so the thing is that we don't charge parents for any advocacy, and only time there's going to be a fee to a parent if it does end up being a lawsuit. Then we'll put them up on our agreement. And part of our services also is to help them identify and interview an attorney. So our phone rings continuous, and now we've been taking calls in from all over the country. But we don't want to be chasing parents for gas money, because many times parents that need our services don't have money. So we don't want to be chasing and doing that. We just want to be able to help freely. And again, when a parent calls us, we know right away if there's a lawsuit, but we don't lead in with that, because when a parent calls us, it's 7 questions they need to be able to answer. Who are they? Who are you? What did they do being the district? What did you do? How were you hurt? How are you going to be made whole, and how much? And from that, we can then help them move down the road to interview an attorney and everything else. Also, with that, we understand everything is legislation. Everything we do in this country is because of laws and legislation. So when a parent called me cussing and fussing, I tell them, you know, you can't talk to the district like that, right? And they're like, yeah. I said, okay. I said, but watch the ed codes I use, and when I talk their language, how we're going to get so much further down the street.
Yeah.
Because it's about legislation.
What you're really saying is that emotional, the cussing, fussing, yelling, screaming amounts to nothing.
Correct.
Okay. And I think, and I'm guilty of it myself, of getting, when you start getting upset, that's where we go with the emotional. But the truth of the matter is, it's going to come down to that paper. And like you said, those codes, those regulations, those ordinances, all of that is what matters.
And I'll tell you this right here. If a parent tells me something, I'm going to make it my business to tell the school district what the parent said. And I can see it as the advocate.
Okay.
And I'll tell them, you know, hey, this parent want to jump on you. And if they see you in the store, I don't know how they're going to react. But also, you do know that is Ed Code 48900.234 ABCD, which is a lawsuit. So I'm going to tell the parent, you can't talk to them like that, because they're going to hit you with a civility code and put a restraining on you where you can't go take care of the business of your student. But me being the advocate, I relay if a parent cuss and be cussing, I'll let the superintendent or the staff know this is how this parent feels. Because I'm not one to be a buffer. I'm one to be a message taker and giver.
Right.
And that's one thing they be like, oh, okay, Mr. Green, I understand. Because most times you have people who want to get in the lane, who want to be passive and said, oh, you know, Mary's upset. No, Mary's MF, da-da-da-da. You know, and I tell them that's how it is.
Yeah, because sometimes people don't know. They really don't know.
Yeah.
To the level that's their child, that you're, you know, whatever's going on. I'm not saying what happened, but the point is their child involved in whatever the situation is. And when you have that, you're going to have emotions. You're going to have emotions. We have a comment from Shelly Dancer before we go on. It says, hi, Mr. Green and Mary. Great work over the years. Thank you, Shelly.
How you doing, Shelly? You know, something else I want to make sure I say. I want to make sure I say this. I've seen everyone lie, from the kindergarten aide to the superintendent.
Oh, so my goodness.
School district employees. And I'm glad it's being recorded, because I call them liars too.
So in other words, everybody doesn't tell the truth when it starts getting hot and heavy.
No, because understand this right here. Long as employees are lying for a district, creating fiduciary negligence, not serving the student, then this district don't have a problem. But as soon as you truly try to advocate for a black or brown student, now you're labeled public enemy number one, and you're not a team player. And now your job is in jeopardy, and so is your livelihood. So many black folks have to go along to get along, and by the time 30 years come, can't wait to retire because they've seen so much go on that it really hurt their heart and their spirit by the time they retire.
I tell you. Well, I went to just say before I said Shelly Dancer, but her name is really Dr. Shelly Dancer. I don't know why she didn't put her doctor on there, but hi, Dr. Dansby. It's really Dr. Shelly Dansby Saucer is her name. So you have to go. You have to wear that proudly. That's something we have to put out there. Yeah, at least I think so. Anyway, well, I know too. You're as you're advocating for that student. Isn't there a lot? I don't know how much, but I'm thinking there's research going into what happened or what is supposed. Like you said, you found people lying at every single step. But you didn't say anything. Does that include the student and the parents too?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, because also the other thing is this, is I tell parents, you got to understand, is that when you go into a district, every day there's a note many times being taken on your student. So when you go to parent-teacher conference, cussing and fussing, everything changes once that teacher flip up that laptop. Because they're going to say on September 1st, Jerry did this. On September 7th, Jerry did this. September 3rd, Jerry. And they got to tell them the tape. So your student many times is not innocent, but in this situation, they might be. And the first thing when a parent call me, I want to know is what ed code is your student being charged with? So then I'll know based on what's going on and what the parent tells me if I can defend the kid's position or if I say your kid need to be suspended for that. Because if that happened to another student, then I'm going to be pushing for the district to suspend or expel that student and make it a teachable moment.
Let's go over the process of all of this. Well, let's say I'm going to use a fight.
Okay.
Now, my child's been in a fight with another child and they were suspended. From what I understand, if they were not the first one to throw the first lick, but then I've been told they both get suspended if there's a fight.
They do. Mutual combat.
So how does that, and then now I'm in the office, I'm at the district office and they're looking at expelling my child. Now
Correct.
what? Do I call you then, or
Yes.
do I call you at the suspension level, or do I call you at the expulsion level?
Both, because I got a call today for expulsion. And so both. But the first question I'm going to ask is, okay, if your student got assaulted by Mikey and little Jerry got assaulted, was Mikey bullying little Jerry? If so, did you tell the administrators? If so, now the administrator didn't do their job to prepare a safe and a teachable environment for your student. So your student is going to get suspended, but now we have something that we're going to do with the district on a different level. Because mutual combat, the kid did fight and defend themselves, so they're going to get suspended.
Okay. So basically, they're no matter if in that situation, it used to be whoever that's what it used to be, whoever threw the first lick. Now it's not like that anymore. If you're in a fight, you're both of you used to receive, it used to be 5 days. Is it still 5 days for fighting? Okay. It
could be 3 to 5 days, and that's Ed Code 48 in California, 48900 A2. Basic mutual combat.
And then the child comes back. But what can lead to an expulsion if it's a fight?
It all depends what else happened with that, how violent it was, and also something else. You many times expulsion or suspension is the third kid in also. Meaning if 2 kids are fighting, then the third kid gets in, that creates a whole nother issue.
Okay. So it's so many factors. There's not one factor because it could be, every situation stands on its own.
Correct. Okay. It stands on its own, then measured against the Ed Code. Because a lot of these things is at the discretion of the administrators. So whereas some things we see where white kids, nothing happens, but black kids get nailed to the cross. So we see the subjective and the racism and discrimination going on within districts.
Right. So what can a parent do then?
So what a parent can do is learn their rights. First thing is this right here, and I teach all parents this, is never go to a school district by yourself for a meeting, and as soon as they say, hey, Miss Mary, can you step in the office, call somebody on the phone. So you got another set of ears, because the administrators will lie on the parent. So you always want to have another set of ears, because then, just like I just showed up when I first started and not knowing anything, but just showing up, it was a totally different outcome.
Wow. So in other words, you need a witness to go with you. Or
a witness. And if you need to call someone on the phone, that works. So, because it's someone else who's involved in the situation. Long as, again, and what happens is parents don't know their rights. So they go in just thinking, hey, I'm just going in to pick my kid up, and they call me in the office. Now it's an official meeting, and you're like, what? And same thing I tell parents to teach their students. As soon as someone starts talking to them, say, I want to talk to my parent or guardian. I want to talk to my parent or guardian. Because many times, by the time the parent gets to school, the kid's in the back of a police car. And school districts would use the fine line saying, we're not interrogating, we're investigating. It's the same thing.
Well, it sounds so similar to, who was that? I can't remember who told me this, that you always say, I'd like to speak to my attorney. If you're ever arrested, you say that. Once you say that, they can't ask you any more questions.
Correct. But what happens is staff members and administrators going to say, oh yeah, we could do that as soon as we could do that soon as I take your statement. Well, no, I want to talk to my mom. Well, I can't call them. And they're going to put the kid in a position, and the kids are young. Or they'll say, just write us a statement. And kids, again, trying to be innocent, thinking they're doing the right thing, not knowing it's going to be used against them.
Is because I know too, the kids pretty much, I say almost 100% have cell phones on them. So at that, they can call their parents then?
They should. Or they should let the administrator know, I'm going to call my parent right now on my phone. I'm not being disrespectful. I'm going to call my parent.
Okay.
Because what happened, so understand this right here.
Okay.
You will probably never hear of an administrator interviewing a white kid at a private school without their parent being there. Why? Because they know they have access to resources who will sue their district.
Right.
Versus we see it all the time in public schools with black students.
So they interview them knowing that and that's really all about knowing your rights.
Correct.
And then, like you said, not only resources, you find that many of them, their uncle's a lawyer or their cousin's a judge or something along those lines. And so it's very easy to look at that as, this as going against the law, because this is a minor. So you would think they would bring.
Well, you say that, but I had a 7-year-old client in Hemet got arrested. And this was before the Orlando situation where a little 6-year-old got arrested.
You said a 7-year-old?
A 7-year-old.
So someone's being sued.
I can't speak to that. I got some. So let's put it like this though. So right now we have over 2,700 consultations.
Right.
We have 12 clients with lawyers, and we got 6 districts that have been served.
Wow.
Because the only thing districts understand is legislation and lawsuits.
Well, I could, yeah, unfortunately, that seems to be what a lot of people understand. That's that's a part of the backlog with our legal system now, is that it's too bad it can't be worked out before it gets to that level, but that's just the world we live in.
But the thing is this, it don't need to be worked out. It just needs to be locus in parentis. Just like the law says that when a kid leaves their household threshold door, that the administrator and staff are like parents on site. So no parent will let their kid get interviewed without them being there. So why would they let that happen to Why would they let that happen to another kid?
I understand. We have Glenn Hunter. Hi, Glenn. I haven't seen you for a while, Glenn. Said, hello, Mary. Hello, Jerry. How do you communicate the importance of relying on the egg codes to parents when they are so emotional about the situation? Good question, Glenn.
Oh, well, I tell them, I understand you're emotional because it's your student. But
Right.
to the district, this is nothing more than business.
Mm.
And school districts are a business. So let me break that down. So what happens is every kid in California is worth about 20 grand. So when you start labeling kids with behavioral need, speech, and other services, that kid might be worth about $35 to $40,000. So now you put 20 kids in a classroom, that's $700 to $800,000 to the district. But now you pay a teacher 85, and you pay an aide 25. So now look at the positive cash flow for the district for that right there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the business of education. So as long as your kid is being labeled with all these disabilities and need all this help and support services, your kid's an asset. But when it's time to deliver the services, because that means bodies and more HR money, then your kid is labeled a liability.
So what now you give workshops too, am I correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
So how does a person, would they go to your website?
They will go to the website. We're trying to update the website with our upcoming classes. And one of them is just parents' basic rights as to, what's going on in the school district. The whole thing is this right here. What we saw with COVID is that many teachers can't teach and they have no relationship with the student. So max probably 7 years, you're going to have people start doing their dissertation on what they're going to call COVID kids, how kids were affected by the COVID. And it's not the disease, it's the bad leadership that was bad leadership that was in place to get us through the pandemic.
Mm.
Because we already knew the numbers and the disparities between white students and black students before the pandemic.
Right.
And now we add a pandemic to it.
And then now it's exacerbated even more due to that. Well, that actually, it was coming out too, how many of the kids didn't have the electronics, either the iPads or the laptops. And so they were getting further and further behind until they could get, but I've never heard that at private schools. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, many private schools never stopped.
Never stopped.
They never needed to.
Okay, let's understand this right here. Education is 80% white women. No other industry get to tell their boss what they're going to do like white teachers.
Mm.
Think about that.
Yeah.
You have teachers telling their boss that they're not going to come back to work, come back in the classroom, but you got restaurant workers who making chump change and now putting their life on the line. And that's no disrespect to them. It's saying that if you want people to get back in the workplace, you got to pay a livable wage. You can't pay people money in which they make more money on unemployment than they do working full time and expect them to come back to work. It just don't make good logical sense.
No, you're right. I know that's been what's going on now with unemployment. People are not going back to jobs. They're like, I don't know if they're opening their own or starting their own businesses. I think that's been something that a lot of people have thought about or looked into after going through what we're going through. And we're still not through it because COVID is still going on. In fact, with the Delta variant, it's not looking like it's getting better right now. So
the difference this time is that the school system is going to be affected more by parent-led versus employee-led. Parents are going to start saying they're not going to send their kids into that environment because it's not safe for their student.
That's true.
And that's the difference in the switch. But also what we see right now, even since school started 2 or 3 weeks ago, the increase in calls because of the power shift, where kids were at home. So 3 weeks after we shut down, I was on a call in California with administrators, and an administrator was still trying to figure out how he could punish students even though they were at home.
Oh my goodness.
So
And
that shows what, again, it's not about how we can make sure they're learning, make sure they get the resources, make sure they got the technology. It's how can I still have my heavy hand of discipline? And
and
that's
don't
the
tell me
power
didn't.
shift. That's the power shift we're going to see. So one story, okay,
Uh-huh.
is that a student was home and her teacher said, "Hey, you can't eat in my classroom." The mom came on camera and said, "He's not in your classroom. He's in my home."
Mm-hmm.
But why don't you have kids in the classroom? Let's think about three things. One, it's not enough for everyone else. Two, it could be a distraction. Three, it can have rodents or rats come in there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If the kid go and take himself off camera and put himself on mute, you'll never have that problem. So why would you try to discipline that kid?
Mm-hmm.
So what we saw in COVID is that districts wanted the same power and latitude, but not the responsibility to educate.
Mm. I'm surprised because I thought that the kids still had to take tests. None of that ended. That they still had accountability even though it was COVID.
I mean, they still had somewhat, some accountability, but they come across and say, no, tests don't count and this and that. And again, I understand that's a different environment, different learning. But
Right.
the other thing is this: how do we go 18 months later, 15, 18 months later, and school districts are still not prepared? How does that
Mm-hmm.
happen? So what happens is that districts want all the latitude, but will suspend and expel a kindergartner. Think about that.
That's hard to even imagine.
But they want latitude being adults. Oh, give us time. Let us adjust. But if a kid don't adjust, they're going to kick them out of preschool.
Oh my goodness. That just sounds like something that it sounds like that's illegal anyway.
Well, understand, it just comes down to education has very little to do with education. It's about money.
Mm.
People go to school because of a teacher done something in their life that made them excel or made them feel special, and they want to do the same thing. So they become a teacher. But once they get caught up in the system, then
Mm-hmm.
they find out it's not about teaching. Because understand this right here. Prior to the Janus Law, when you became a teacher, you had to join the union.
Well, now you don't.
Now you don't because of the Janus Law.
Yeah, you don't have to. But I know what you mean though, because I taught for a long
I
time,
mean, I
and I said that it was just time to do something different. But you're right. Prior to that, when you became a teacher, you had to join the union. Now you don't have to join. You can give your quote unquote dues to a nonprofit or something. You don't have to. I don't even know if you have to do that. But there's
mean,
no
but
requirement to join.
right. So, but understand this right here.
Hmm.
So then, why would a union fight against the district when the district is their marketing? I have yet to see a union fight hard for a black employee across the country.
I didn't know that. I don't know. And you're in this battle, so I have no way of knowing.
Yeah.
It's almost like
The
because
school districts is one of the largest legalized criminal organizations in this country.
I don't know if I could go quite that far, Jay.
That's okay. I said it. I'm okay with it. So I understand this right here. Understand. How do you put $2 billion or more over the last 20 years into an industry and the test scores are still the same? The margins are still the same between white and black students. And I'm not giving black parents a pass because black parents, again, we have work to do too.
Right.
It's a three-legged stool. It's the household, it's the district, and it's the community. And all three of them have to work together to produce the best student. But what happens is the only one who knows the rules to the game is the district. And they're not educating parents on how it works. No other industry gets to blame the customer. What other industry, if you can't afford a Mercedes-Benz, Mercedes don't call you dumb. They don't say you don't care. But in school districts, they say black parents don't care and black students can't learn. What other industry get to do that?
Well, all I know is that, like you said, it's not one-sided. And it's not, and you can't really point the finger at one entity, because it is a collaborative effort. That's the
Well,
one thing
well
you can say
let me
about
tell you why I do that.
it. Okay.
Because the only one who knows the system consistently and is rewarded from the system is the district. Understand this right here. If you went to the hospital and you wanted to see a family member and you went to information, you'll say, "Where's room 534?" Someone would tell you, "Go down here, go to the elevator, take it to the fifth floor, come off, make a right, then make a left." If you went to an airport, you were trying to travel, and you said, "I need to get to the C corridor 18 gate," then they're going to tell you how to get there. But districts do not tell you how the system works. That's the power, because long as parents don't know how it works, then the district still have the power. Once parents understand how the district works, then they understand they have the power.
Mm. So when you teach the workshops, you teach parents how districts work?
Yes. And I talk about the business of again, if their kid has an IEP or 504 and everything like that. And I also understand, I tell parents that you don't have to sign an IEP or 504 that day. You have 10 days by law. But the district wanted them to sign it right then because many of it is already typed up. They just checking boxes. And that's not the best interest of the student. So right now, if a parent, if we have a scheduled meeting for an IEP or 504, say on a Thursday, we do the IEP 504. I tell the parent, okay, take the weekend off, then look back at it on Monday with fresh eyes. Because there's so much technology, terminology that parents don't understand, that they're just overwhelmed and they need to download to get that out their system, then to look back at it with fresh eyes and make sure it's in the best interest of their student.
I think it's like many of them may or may not know what it means when you say 504 or IEP. So explain that to our audience.
So IEP is Individualized Education Program, which means something special for little Jerry and my learning, meaning that they might do a push-in, which means a aide might come into the class and sit next to me while the teacher's instructing to help me, or do a pull-out, come get little Jerry and bring him to the hall and then help me with my learning. Versus a 504 is just accommodations, meaning little Jerry might have be deaf in his left ear. So now you're going to sit little Jerry to the front right side of the classroom, so now I can hear. Okay. So little Jerry also might have a bladder problem where I might need to get up and use the restroom. So now you're going to sit little Jerry in the back of the classroom so then he can get up and go use the restroom as needed without being a distraction. So a 504 is just accommodations for what a student might need. Or it could be that there could be 20 questions. I only need to do 12 to 16. So it's whatever it might need to be. And also parents, the 504 could be your super cape. Don't let people shame your student because they're in special ed or something like that. That could be your super cape to help your student excel.
Okay. So what determines if a student is going to be either receive a 504, which is accommodations, or an IEP, which is individualized educational?
The school, one, it could be medical, that is already from a medical condition, or a medical symptom, or it can be something that the parent recognizes that I'm moving a little slow, I'm not picking up, or it could be where the teacher can recognize that something is going on with little Jerry and we need to do testing to see what's going on.
Okay. So if it's a testing situation, the parent
well, both the parent or the teacher.
Okay,
the parent can say, "Hey, I want little Jerry to get tested. I think he might, have some challenges here," and then the test will determine what it is.
Right. That's what I was going to ask. Who's going to make that recommendation, the teacher or the parent, or is it the test scores?
It could be both. Well, it's the recommendation for testing, and then the test scores going to say yes, he does have a challenge or he doesn't, and even with that, parents can say, even though he tested well, we still want to get him an IEP or 504 to help him for his assistance. And that's why I say it could be a super cape that parents can use it to make sure they get their needs met. Another thing is if I have Tourette or if I have some other challenge that I can be disruptive, and you put that in a 504 to let the teacher know. So now you can't write me up for speaking up.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying?
Right. It has to be in
Because
writing.
I am being disruptive.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Oh yeah, because if not, the teacher's just going to think you can't be quiet or something like that is going on.
Okay. But you have to let the teacher know that what's going on.
Correct. It has to be communicated, documented. Documentation is the key.
Okay. What I would, and parents, and I say this to parents and grandparents, because many times grandparents are raising children. And that doesn't mean you have all the answers. Nobody, let me just say this so everybody knows, nobody has all the answers. And I'm saying this you're talking about a veteran teacher. I retired from education. Nobody has all the answers. But I appreciate Jerry because I know that there's a need for him. To say that there isn't, people don't call him just to be calling him. They're calling him because there's situations that they know they need somebody to advocate for that student or to be there. And sometimes the advocation could be, it probably could end up being for the teacher too, depending on what's going on. It doesn't always have to be at the student level.
No. We represent employees also.
That's what I thought.
Because what happens is that, like I said, once an employee advocates or stand in the gap for a student, then they're labeled public enemy number one, and they're not a team player. So now many times they have a target on their back. And now they're being harassed, and they're being bullied, and they're being singled out, and things like that. And I can say that two of the 4 first districts that were served was representing employees.
Whoa. And we have a comment from Pamela White. She says she's so glad she stopped. I guess she was kind of going by and then saw us talking. Pamela said, I need to hear this. Well, Pamela, that says a lot. That means that what you're hearing is important. Yeah. And I do think just knowing that you have the power, knowing just those things, knowing that you need when you're going to a meeting, that it's not just a casual meeting. You need someone else there with you because you don't know. This could be the meeting can make the difference between, is your child going to get a 3-day suspension? Are they going a 1-day, 3-day, 5-day, whatever it is? Your being there is paramount. And
okay, so let me tell you what happened. Let me tell you what happened in Southern California. Okay, and I'm gonna give you the district, Val Verde. So this little student, she might have been 65 to 85 pounds. And she told the teacher, oh, and the teacher was small too. Oh, you can fit in my purse. The teacher took it and said, oh, she was threatening to cut me. They suspended this little baby. She was out of school over 30 days waiting for her expulsion hearing. When we sent our advocate in to the expulsion hearing, soon as our advocate identified himself, then the administrator said we could do something different, and they sent her to an alternative school for a year.
Because the advocate showed up.
Because the advocate knew what we did.
So this is now the people that work with you. Are they volunteers? How are they?
Right now, volunteers, and we do have some funding. So we're also looking to do some stipends. But most of the people again just have the passion. So Mary, let's do this right here. And anyone else watching or is going to watch this in the future, think about this.
Okay.
Think about the basketball players on your varsity basketball team. You probably can remember 5, maybe 10, maybe the whole team.
Right.
Now name or think about 10 black men who you know didn't have a problem with school. You probably can't come up with 10.
That there was some situation. There's something. So there, in other words, there's forces unseen that we may not recognize.
It's racism. It's systemic racism.
That's what I mean by the unseen. You can't see it, but you know it's there. That's what I mean by that.
Yes.
And there was always something.
Because we see the subjective enforcement of policies and procedures by leadership. And that could be from, again, black, white, and Hispanic. Because once you're part of the system, you're part of the system.
Wow. So okay. Now that we know all this, Jerry, how do we make it better for the next generation?
It's part of the education of the parents and educating the students of, again, when something happens, just request for your guardian to come. And when parents get there, they need to be educated on ed code, or if nothing else, just say and take notes and then start making calls and say, I know someone is out there who can help me. And that's how we started as a Black student advocate. Parents are just calling me saying, Jerry, I know you're a resource. Who do you know? And I was able to flex my schedule so I can go. And it just evolved. And from that, it became legacy because of what my mom did for me. And I can tell you, I've been offered contracts by districts, but I never want to be a district's employee because I feel I have the same fiduciary obligation to the parent as I do to my real estate clients, because I'm also a licensed real estate broker.
But I think it's like anything else. If you were getting an income, you couldn't do what you're doing. You would feel obligated to represent that district. And now you're free to do whatever you need to do.
And that's what it's about. And so in saying that, that's really a great point you just brought up. Any individual or organization who truly want to do work in the community have to have their own independent way of taking care of themselves. They can't be on the hook for districts or counties or anyone else for an RFP, proposal, contract, or anything, because you can't speak independently.
Okay, for those of you that don't know, RFP is request for funding. That's what that is. So
proposal.
Okay, but I'm saying, but I just want people to know, because when you're speaking in the, I know what you're talking about.
Okay, so let me tell you this right here.
Okay.
So I get a call for a situation at RUSD, Riverside Unified School District, on situation happened October 12th. I get the call October 15th, meet with the parents about their student being referred to as cotton picking Kayla. So met with these school administrators, and the next day the coach was relieved of duty. And for extracurricular activities, they could fire a coach at will with no problem. There's no union with that. That's a contract. So they fired him. So that Friday, we met again with the district, and they gave us some BS, what they were going to do. And I was like, that's not going to work. How are you going to make it a soft landing for when a student come back in? How are you going to integrate, support the student? And they didn't do any of that. But on the 20th and 21st, I did a video on the 19th. On the 20th and 21st, individuals calling around Riverside asking, hey, who's this guy, Jerry Green? They said, oh, he's a Black student advocate. You know what the next question was?
No. What was it?
They said, who can we call? They said, Jerry don't have a handler. That's the thing. They're so used because people need money from school districts, or they might have jobs that they could call somewhere in the community to shut down advocacy. It wasn't that they were trying to say. It wasn't that they were trying to say, how can we make this situation better for the student that it don't happen again? They want to shut up the person who's bringing light to the problem.
Well, Pamela is saying, are you connected?
The question is yes, Pamela.
He said yes, Pamela, and I'll put his website up.
You give us a call, and we'll do the best we can to help you in whatever state you're in. And we've advocated for Washington State, Oregon, Nevada, Arizona, Michigan, Florida, Texas, Tennessee, Ohio, Oklahoma. And even the guy who called me here in Oklahoma left me a message. I called him before he left me a message. He said, I'm a racist. So I called him back.
I'm sorry, I spelled the name student wrong. I'm sorry, I didn't mean that, Jerry. But I just caught it. I said, oh, I spelled the name student wrong. My apologies. I got to make that correct because.
Don't worry. So the guy is saying. So I'm talking to the guy, and he told me when the appointment is with the school and everything, and he mentions 3 times on the phone when I'm talking to him that he's a racist. And I said,
Wait, what?
yeah, this parent that I was helping in Oklahoma,
Uh-huh.
we're talking, and he says, yeah, well, my wife is black, so my son is black, and I'm white, and I'm a racist. So we keep talking, and he said, yeah, and I'm a racist. And third time, he said, yeah, and I'm a racist. I said, man, I ain't trying to hear all that. Your son need help.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so again, so I
Now that was where?
Oklahoma.
Okay. Well, I can tell. I mean, I'm sure you can tell me different scenarios
Oh,
more
yeah.
than I would want to hear. You want to know the truth about it. But I would really venture to say to let our audience know, ladies and gentlemen, if you need Jerry's services, as he said, but I can tell you too. He didn't say this, but I'm going to say this. They do need donations. If you would like to donate to the Black Student Advocate, you can make a donation to them. They are a nonprofit. They're 501c3.
Okay. Hold up. So the Black Student Advocate, I'm sorry, and it's LLC. We're for profit. We do have a nonprofit sister organization which is serving the people.
Got it.
The other thing is, you just want to pledge, then that's the easiest and cleanest way to do it. And you can go to our website, theblackstudentadvocate.com, and just pledge, and just go to the pledge page.
Now you are an LLC or the Inc. The Black Student
LLC.
Advocate. Got it. I'm putting it right now.
LLC.
Okay. Let me save that, and you will be. There we go. Here we go. Now, and I'm saying
so
all this.
Let me say this also, Mary. Sorry to cut you off.
Not a problem.
So we do not solicit calls. And when I say that, we do not look for parents' phone numbers and things like that to call when we see an issue. We'll just say, call us and give our number, because if a parent won't make the initial call, then we can't expect for them to stand up and fight as we move down the road.
Have you had parents, once you start fighting, say, okay, that's okay, we're not gonna fight this?
Oh yes, yeah, yeah.
I would think.
And I tell them, and I tell them, if you're not ready to fight for the rest of your student's career, then don't get started. Just let your kid get abused.
But that's, the reason I was trying to say, I think what happens is the child goes back to school and the parent is still fighting, but the repercussions are coming against the child, if that makes sense. And so that's why they back off.
No, what's going to happen is the district, most districts that I've dealt with work with the I got you type mentality, meaning that if your student get away from what they think this time was something, they're looking for your student and targeting your student. And something else that we're working on right now is we're working to add to our website, Rate My K-12 Teacher.
What was that?
Rate My K-12 Teacher.
I thought you said rape. That's why I said, wait a minute, we need to clear this. Okay.
R-A-T-E.
Okay.
Because the thing is this, because school administrators and staff, when little Jerry go to school first thing in the morning, if I do something, they communicate. So why not have a system where parents can communicate to what educator treated students bad prior?
Right. Okay. Well, I know too, we're nearing the end of this show, Jerry. I know that this has been, I'm listening to you and I'm thinking there's I don't know who's out there that needs this information, but there's someone I know that does. I do know that there's somebody that needs to know that you are empowered to know you don't have to just take whatever is going on and not be able to fight against it. And everything does not end up in litigation. I don't want to get
No, it don't.
Yeah, you want to know that there's ways around that. That is actually, correct me, Jared, that's the last place it ends up is in litigation.
Because understand this right here. Is that could be an 18-month or 2-year process, but your kid got to go to school tomorrow.
Exactly.
So we need to deal with it on the low, and the whole thing about the ed code and me telling the superintendent, director of student services, director of safety about the ed code is to let them know I have the lawsuit in the back pocket if the parent want to use that. So now address little Jerry better tomorrow, because little Jerry's coming to school tomorrow, and it needs to be safe and an environment which he can learn.
Okay, so if you for as we end this, what would be your last words to a parent or guardian that has a child that's in K-12? Because after K-12, that child is pretty much on their own.
It's a whole different game.
It is. But how? What would you say? And I'm not just saying Kate, because like you said, you also work with employees. So we're not just it's not just one. You know, there's more than one side to this. What kind of advice would you give them?
First thing is never go to a meeting by yourself.
Okay.
Always have someone you can call on the phone
Okay.
and have them listen in to what's going on. Two, always tell your student whenever a teacher want to ask them some questions that is not related to their education, meaning how you do this math or anything else, say I want to talk to have my parent or guardian present, and repeat that until they call the parent or guardian. That's the baseline to work from. And parents, when you go to the school, don't go to school cussing and fussing, because that's going to be a bigger issue than what happened with your student. They're going to talk about your behavior more than how your student was treated. And that's the game they play.
You're right. So I think with the and I said these are your final words, but what Jerry is saying, ladies and gentlemen, that emotional that we have been accused of and guilty of, and all those things, all that emotional amounts to nothing. The yelling, the screaming, the cussing people out, I'm going to hurt you, all the threats, all of that, that's actually called terrorist threats. Anytime you make a threat against someone. The point being, none of that is helping anybody's child. It's not helping anything. But if you
let me say this off, Mary.
Okay.
Parents, you must read the student handbook. Yeah. And when a district calls you, your 3 questions to ask them are, where's that located in the student handbook? Where's that located on the district website? And where's that located in Ed Code? And it's their job to tell you where it is. It's not your job to find it.
Well, okay, that's good to know. All right. Well, Jerry, we'd like to thank you for being on the Mary G Show today. It really has been a pleasure having you. I know many parents and grandparents have been educated, because even though I was in the educational system, I still learned a little bit, something I didn't already know. So thank you, thank you, thank you. We really appreciate you. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that is, I'm sorry. It was another comment today. She said, that would be great. That was Pamela. I try not to miss any comments. And our comments today have come from the first one from Sheila. Thank you, Sheila. Thank you, Shelly. Thank you, Pamela, for your comments, all that you made today. And thank you again, Jerry, for being here.
Thank you.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I wanted to make sure I have a chance to thank our sponsors for the show again today, because they have been gracious and making sure the show goes on. And that is Evelyn Pachenko with the Nevada Women in Trade. Thank you, Evelyn, for your sponsorship. It is First Fridays Travel. Thank you, First Fridays. You can get your travel insurance or book your travel there. Also for the book fair coming October 2nd in Moreno Valley at Crossword Church. They are also sponsoring. And last but not least is First Book Academy. If you like to write a book, you've been thinking about writing a book, it could be a book of poetry, it could be a book for children, it could be any of those types of books. You have an opportunity to write that. And also, those of you that are not familiar, I should show it to you. But anyway, it is the book Saying No Nicely. But if you've ever struggled with saying no, if you've ever said, I wanted to say no, but I just didn't know how to say it. The book is on Amazon called Saying No Nicely. It currently has 14 5 stars. So that's people that are leaving the reviews. I'm thankful for that. I am the author of that book, Saying No Nicely. And I didn't bring I did, but the cover's a little too far for me to reach today, but I'll make sure I have it next Monday. But I wanted to make sure those of you that if you're interested in saying no, the book talks about how to say no to your parents, how to say no to your significant other in your life? How do you say no? How do you say no to your boss? Think about that, ladies and gentlemen. How to say no to your coworkers? All that's in there. You would think how, and each and every one of those scenarios is different unto itself. There's no two scenarios. You don't say no to your significant other like you say no to your boss. I know you may think you do, but you don't. They're just, it's not how it works. And it even talks about, ladies and gentlemen, in there that no is a weapon. Think about that. No is a weapon. And when we say no, it's not only what we say, it's how we say it. And all of that's in there also. And I go over that with you because what I find is sometimes we don't know how to say no. We don't say no because we don't know how to say it. That's number one. And then so we say yes. And we get mad at ourselves for saying yes. We're upset about saying yes. Let me go in and make sure I see Glenn. There you go, Glenn. I want to put you on there before. Oh, thank you, Glenn. That's appreciated. And then Pamela, thank you too. And Glenn, thank you for your comment. I hope I said your name earlier. Oh, thank you too. Thank all of you. I'm gonna tell you. You know what? This is good stuff. I'm gonna tell you. As long as, and everything that Jerry said, as long as there's the situation, everything is true, then he's not saying anything negative about the school districts. Keep in mind, no two situations are the same. So, ladies, gentlemen, thank you again for coming. We'll be back on Monday, this coming Monday, and it's the 13th, September 13th, 1 o'clock p.m., same time. Ooh, they say same back time, same back channel. But anyway, the Mary D Show. I look forward to seeing you then. God bless each and every one of you. Bye, everybody.